Happy Tuesday from the car. It is Tuesday because yesterday was Monday, and Monday we did not have school. We didn't have regular school with the kids. We had our district-wide PD day, and last year we did this a little bit differently. I think each year it's kind of different, where last year we kind of got to pick and choose different sessions that we could go to and see what we wanted to learn about. They were like hour-long little sessions that you could go to throughout the day. Since we are adopting HMH into reading next year, this was like a full district-wide for all the elementary school teachers, just like an intro training into what the program is, what it looks like. Obviously, I have already been piloting this program, so I knew a lot of what was already shared, but I was the note taker and I was there to like answer any questions for any of the other first grade teachers. Me and a couple of the other pilot teachers could help out in that way, and just, kind of get a new little insight into the program. And that was our day yesterday. So today I have to make a lot of copies. We have a big ziggle-zaggle week that I will explain later once I get in there, but I've got copies to make, got to get all set up for the week. Before I do that, I wanted to share, I am a little bit on a reading binge, which I'm very excited about because I feel like last year I really only read like one, maybe two books a month. But for our book club in January, we read the book, The Inheritance Games. It looks like this right here. So fun. It is a YA book, so it's a little on the younger side, but it is about a young girl in high school who randomly gets this inheritance of a billionaire. And then just kind of all these little games and mind puzzles and everything that go along with it. I thought it was such a fun read. And then I also read The Wedding People. Very different type of book, but I thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. So I just read that one, and now I am almost done with The Beautiful Ugly, or just Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I have looks like I'm about 70% of the way through. I'm listening to this one on Audible, and very creepy. This one is about an author whose wife randomly disappears, and a year later he goes to this tiny little island to find some inspiration and write again. But just very creepy. I'm into it though, and I'm flying through it. So that'll be 3 books for January, because I think I'll definitely finish this one before the end of the month. So if you're looking for any book recommendations, boom, boom, and boom, love all 3 of them. All right, let's go in, get ready for the day, and I will explain what we're up to this week. From my classroom. I had mentioned in the car that this week is quite the ziggle-zaggle week. Yesterday I said we had no school because we had our PD. Today will be a regular day. Tomorrow we have data day to go over all of our winter screening data and determine who will be going into WIN groups for reading, math, and SEL groups. And then Thursday will be a regular day. And Friday my son has an appointment in Boston with a specialist, so I don't know if this is just a Northeast thing, it's probably everywhere, but if you have an appointment, especially in a big city like Boston, and with a specialist, they kind of just give you a day and a time 6 months in advance, and you have to show up. So it is not ideal. It is not good timing by any means, but I don't really have another choice. So that is what it is. So this week is very funky. So because of that, I'm trying to keep today and Thursday, the 2 days that I'm here, like very structured, keeping everybody right on track of where we need to go. In terms of what we are learning, we are finishing up and we're doing a show what we know in phonics today. So we are going to do our Unit 7 test, which is glued sounds, NG and NK. And then we are also going to review calendar skills and time skills. And on Thursday, we will do our show what we know. So let me show you a little bit about what we're up to, some of the activities we're using to help review, and then really I need to get my sub plans and everything kind of set for the other couple days. I want to show you my cute little hearts that we made for the wall too. I have made a few of these. I think if you watch my videos, I made these really cute snowflake ones for, we did it right before Christmas vacation, and I was planning to keep them up all the way through this month, I was gonna keep them up through February actually. And then I got all hasty and I was getting rid of everything for winter break, and I accidentally had them all take everything home so I could clear out everything. But it was actually good because we just did a mystery science lesson on light and translucent, transparent, and opaque. So we just did that lesson, and then we got to make these cute little hearts. I had everybody cut their own hearts out, and they got to pick their own colors and fill them in. So a cute little way to brighten up our classroom. So with our glued sounds, what I did is I actually went back and I grabbed these slides from the week 1, day 1 of my foundation slides for the unit. And I just reviewed our 4 glued sounds and the sound that they make. And then we blended some words with these: hang, fang, sang, ring, or sorry, we did with ing, and then ong, and then same thing for our glued sounds with the NK. So ink, ink, onk, and unk. So we went through all of these. We practiced hearing the sounds, listening for them. And then I didn't do it on the slide, but let me show you for our next one. Once we get there, we did a little quick write. Now I shared this last year, and it is just a super easy way to practice dictation, right? So what we do is I put 2 minutes on a little timer down here, and I just throw up a bunch of images of whatever skill we are practicing. Now we also talked about how we can add the suffix s, dunks, rings, sinks, to these sounds too. So we're also combining those skills because suffix s was our unit 6, our previous unit. So we went over what each of these pictures is first, so everybody knew, and then everybody kind of spread out around the room. They can lie on the floor, they can go somewhere as long as they can see the board. And then I press the 2-minute timer, and they have 2 minutes to write down as many of these as they can. I explain, and I heavily emphasize for some of my students that this is difficult, that they don't have to write all of them. They're just trying to write as many as they can and as correctly as they can by listening to the sounds. And when the timer is up, I say freeze, everybody drops their marker, and then I ask everybody, I said, okay, give me, or raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you were able to write the word wink. And then I ask one of those people to spell it. I will write it up here, and they will check it with theirs on their board. And if they get it correct, they give it a check mark. And then the same for each one. Trunk. Now, trunk was a challenge one, and I told them this. I always put in a challenge one just because it has the blend TR at the beginning, which we're actually learning in our next unit. But I said, okay, we're going to throw a challenge one in there. So do the other ones first, and if you have time, do trunk. And then students just give a check to each one they were able to do. They pat themselves on the back, and we move along. I really like that activity. It is so simple, and it's basically the same exact thing as me asking students to just take out their whiteboards and do dictation. It just switches it up a little bit. So instead of me saying, all right, everybody listen for the word rings, ings, then writing it, and then they kind of like talk the whole time. We know when they're doing it. I'm trying to redirect them. Instead, it just has them up, it has them going, has them focused for a full 2 minutes. And we can see how quickly, they can write those down too. It also helps me see who's still really struggling with those sounds, who does not know them automatically, things like that. Another fun way to spice up your dictation is to play Showdown. I've shared this before too, but basically let's pretend this is their whiteboard. With Showdown, they're just doing basic dictation, but they are holding their whiteboard so they can only see it, not the person across from them. And then they'll write down the word wing. And I say, okay, everybody, 3, 2, 1, showdown. And they have to show it to the person across from them. And then they have to check it. I will write it on the board. So if their partner or if they get it incorrect, they will just coach each other and tell them what they need to fix. Then they fix it and give each other a high five. So it's another way I kind of like switch it up. Most days we're just doing regular dictation, but when I feel like we need to get some movement or really just kind of focus, or even if I just want to change it up a little bit, those are 2 ways I typically do that. After we do that quick writing, we are going to do an activity that we did last week. Let me grab it right here. Basically, I just made little flashcards of all sorts of words. Most of them have ing, ank, the glued sounds. Most of them do. You can see some here are kind of mixed in as like review words, dash. But let me flip the camera and I'll show you how we did this. Okay, so here's just an example of some of the cards, and every student would get 1 card. And then up on the smartboard, I just had a little slideshow kind of going that I would click one and it would say, stand up if your word has a glued sound with NG. So if anybody had a glued sound with NG, they would stand up. And then everybody sits back down. Stand up if your word has a suffix S. So anybody with suffix S, and they have to show me their card real quick and I would take a look. Stand up if your word has a digraph. So some have digraphs. stand up if your word has the glued sound with NK. They would stand up. So everybody did that, and then I always do one at the end, stand up if you haven't been called yet. And that just lets me see if for some reason there was a card that didn't match any of the categories, or if a student didn't recognize which category their card belongs in. And then once everybody has their card, they all hold it and we do quiz, quiz, trade. So I have shared this before, but with quiz, quiz, trade, everybody has a card and they would just go up to each other. So pretend this is two students. They go up to each other and they have to read it. So I would read wings and the person holding wings would read songs. And then if we get it correct, we trade cards and then we go find a new partner. Bunk, songs, trade, go find a new partner. And they basically do that by holding their card, walking all around the room, and getting to move and also practice reading at the same time. After we play this little game, I will go ahead and give us our show what we know, and that we just do in our foundations journals, and basically students have to, it's a dictation, is basically what it is. So students will have to write down 5 different sounds and then 5 different words that include the targeted sounds, which are glued sounds for this unit. Then they also write 2 complete sentences, which intertwine the skills words, old skills words that we've used, as well as high frequency words. And on that note, I'm going to get a few things ready, see where my day takes me, and I will pop in and check with you either later today or tomorrow. Good morning, happy Wednesday. It is day to day over here. So I am getting my sub plans ready and then I'm going to head down in a little bit to the conference room because that is where all the first grade team, the specialists, our principal, and everybody will meet to go over all the winter screening data. And that is where we will form our new RTI groups for the next few weeks, for the next season of life, we shall say. Or the season of first grade. There are a couple things I wanted to show you real quick before I head over, and then I'll probably pop in at the end of the school day to let you know about a couple of the other activities I'm planning this week, because tomorrow we are introducing consonant blends. I have a couple other time activities I wanted to share and things like that. So let me show you first our Can We Catch Kindness chart. So I just drew this yesterday. It's Can We Catch Kindness, and I did something similar last year. The little mason jar and the cute little hearts I just saw from somebody on TikTok. If I can find who, I will link it down below because hers is a lot cuter. I just freehanded it, obviously. But basically I have a little jar here and we're going to try to work together to catch some kindness in our classroom. And if we fill up the mason jar, then we will get to earn some sort of class prize or class party. And the way we can do that is by listening, giving compliments to one another, and showing respect. And we talked a little bit about what that looked like in our classroom. So whenever I see somebody doing one of these things, and we just started yesterday, so whenever I see them, I'll call their name. They can come up, grab a pencil here. They can fill in one of the hearts or circles with their name, and then they can pick one of the color crayons to color in the jar. So that is going to be kind of a positive little reinforcement here that we're going to work on for our listening, being kind to one another, aka giving compliments, and showing respect. If you followed my videos last year, you'll know I did something similar. And then I think I did a big heart in February, and then I did like 2 other ones. I did one, I think, in March, and then one in May, just to earn also as the end of the year comes by to like earn a class party, work towards things. And again, each time we can focus on what our whole class needs to work on, which right now is like respectful listening and using kind words with one another. So that is the plan. We'll see how it is going forward. The other thing I wanted to show you is so random, but I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I have a mentor here at the school, or I have a mentee at the school. We have a mentorship program. I think I've mentioned this, where we kind of go through all the students in the school and make sure they have connections to an adult in the building, and if somebody doesn't have a lot of connections, or if we just know as the teacher that they could benefit from some extra special time with a loved adult or something like that, and a trusted adult, then once a week the mentor, me, gets to meet with the mentee for like 15 minutes. So I do it during my lunchtime, it could be during a prep time, it could be really any time that the mentor and mentee figure out. But something that we've been enjoying doing is making these little clay animals, and this is called hay clay. Let me flip the camera and I'll show you. I found it on Amazon, but you can also get these at Target. And so it is hay clay, that's the brand, and all of the clay is air dry, and it's so easy to work with, and then it just dries really quickly. This one is just a bunch of different dogs. We had another one that had other animals that she's already done, and you just download the app and it walks you through each of the steps, and they are so cute. It's so fun to do, and it's actually really, really easy. I got another pack for my boys at home, and they love it too. So I thought I would share. And then before I head down, the last thing I wanted to share with you this morning was our science lesson where we made our own little superhero symbols. This is a really fun one when we talk about light. For science, we have a bunch of different programs and websites that our district, subscribes to, so we can get different lessons and pull from them. But my two favorite are Generation Genius and Mystery Science. So this lesson right here, where we make the translucent little wall hangings, that one is from Mystery Science. But we really talk about light and how things can be opaque and light does not shine through, how they can be translucent and some light can go through, and how they can be transparent and all light can go through, like a glass window, for example. So then so we did that one, and then to extend that lesson, Generation Genius has a really fun lesson where you get to make your own superhero symbol. So we get these little clear discs, and I'll link them down on Amazon. And then we watch the little video just to talk about those 3 types of light again. And then what we do is you just take a Sharpie, and the student will make a little symbol here in the middle. The student made a little flower. You could do a heart, a star, you could do your initials. You let it dry, and then you flip it over and you trace it and kind of color it in on the back. This one you can see is a little translucent, as you can see the light coming through. But what we do then is that we turn off all the lights and we grab a flashlight, and then students get to shine the flashlight on their symbol. And what it does is obviously the light goes through the transparent part, but then the opaque part is the one that creates the shadow. So I'll insert a couple pictures here of students doing it. They had a ball, and then they get to take them home and practice them at home and share what they've learned. So a very fun, cute little science experiment. Hello from the end of the day. Day to day is complete. It is always a long day, but a helpful day because we sit and can really talk about everybody and get all the groups started or at least planned out, so the next week groups can get started for further RTI for the whole winter session into spring. And what's crazy is the next day-to-day that we have will be our spring day-to-day, which is really just at the end of the year, and we just talk about student progress and growth. And on that day-to-day, we really kind of focus on where our instruction might need to change up going into next year. And that is where we can really kind of start our beginning lens by looking at who might be grouped together, and just thinking about those types of things, like which students need to go where, and all that fun. But it was a nice long day. I was just taking a look at my plans for tomorrow, so I thought I would share what we are doing. I had mentioned we are going to be learning about blends tomorrow, and I always find this really interesting, so I'll just go on a little rant here for a second. When teaching blends, I have seen so many times people say that, why do we need to teach consonant blends? It's just blending is a verb, it is not a noun. And I fully agree with that, I should point out. However, having taught first grade for such a long time, I have never had a class of students, or at least a small group of students, that have not struggled to blend and or segment words with 4 or more sounds. So once we do move on from those 3 sound words, it does get tricky for students. So I have always explicitly taught blends. Now, the way you teach blends, I think, is really important, and we aren't teaching students to memorize a bunch of S blends, L blends, and R blends, for example. Although I do teach students that some of the more common blends we are going to see, especially at the beginning of a word, are S blends, L blends, and R blends. And I also do that specifically so they're used to hearing those words, and especially with those R blends, so many students get kind of tripped up on the DR blend as well as the TR blend. Again, if you're a first grade teacher, you'll know this, but many students will kind of hear jr instead of the dr. They'll hear like jr, and then often with tr, you'll have students that hear chr, which is interesting. So I really like to point out that when you are hearing these sounds, this is to my students, when you're hearing these sounds, there are no words in the English language that start with JR. So when you're hearing that, I always ask them, try the DR blend, see if that makes sense. And again, just getting them to hear that. So I have always explicitly taught blends, but I think it's important the way you do teach it. Again, you're not just teaching them to memorize like a list of blends. We also talk about how consonant blends go before or after a vowel, like in the word tent. I always find it interesting when people or even curriculum, I guess, does not include consonant blends. I just find it interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe if Foundations didn't have it or if a curriculum didn't have it, I would still pull a small group that does struggle hearing those blends, and I would continue to work on them in that way. But yeah, I find it interesting. Anyway, let me flip this over and I can show you some of the activities we'll be starting to kick off blends tomorrow. All right, so looking at tomorrow, right after Heggerty, we are going to dive into our review. These, you will know, these are my Foundations aligned slides that I've created for every unit. Now, what you might notice is in this unit is where we finally drop the keyword or the image that goes with each one. I really want to move students along instead of focusing on, X, fox, X, wind, W, or W, wind, W. Instead of that keyword kind of blocking up the middle there, I really want them to just be able to look at it and say, b, k, d, eh. And so we're going to start that tomorrow, and that will be with all the further units for the rest of the year, and same with our digraphs. Now, when we move to our glued sounds, which are still newer, we're going to keep that keyword there before we kind of phase that out. So we'll do a little review first, and then we will review what a digraph is when two consonants work together to make one sound, and then we're going to talk about two consonants next to one another, but they each keep their own sound, and it is called a blend, like slip. And then we explain that when we have two consonants next to one another that each make their own sound, it is called a blend, and we talk about how it comes before or after the vowel. And then I'll just have students practice blending some of these. Sled. I'll also, as you can see here, this is not all the letters are here. I usually do this with continuous blending or successive blending, rather, where we do s and then sled. So here I'm going to show all four. I want to just see how my students do, but in the future we will probably do this with successive blending. Mask, flip, and pond, and then I will ask students to point out where the blend is. Is it before or after? And then I'll show them how to mark it. Marking is a pretty common thing in Foundations. So the way they mark up a consonant blend is they just look at the two letters that make the blend and they will draw a line under each one. So here I'll have students kind of come up to the board. They'll have to read the word and then they can underline both of the letters. So drop, sent, bent, stuck, brag. I also have this one in here so we can underline our digraph together. Then I'll have students grab their whiteboard. So here we were reading some words, marking it up. Now we're going to practice some encoding. So we will say the word aloud, flag. We will tap the sounds, flag, 4 sounds, and practice writing it. Same with stem, snap, and vest. And then instead of the wiggle break, I do think we were supposed to add it to our journals. But I think what I'm going to do is just like I showed you earlier with those cards, my students really have been needing to get up and move, and I know we have a wiggle break right here, but I think I want to get them up and moving with the skill. So I'm going to make some index cards before I leave school today. So I'm going to make some index cards with 4 sound words with blends to practice reading them. So I just took out some index cards. I'm going to get some smelly markers. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have students, I'm just planning this right now. So I think I'm going to write down the words and then I'll have students mark it up themselves and figure out what their word says so they can also see that blend there. And then we will play quiz trade like I just shared because that went really well. And again, getting students up and moving. My students do really well with a solve the room or a write the room or a read the room. So I'm going to have them get up and get moving. And then I'll collect the cards and we will do our wiggle break. And then just since I feel like I have not shared writing in a while, we are diving into a new unit. And with this unit, we are going to be learning about narrative writing. So this is through HMH, of course, and they are introducing a folktale. So we talked a little bit about a folktale yesterday, and I'm just going to review these different characteristics of a folktale. And this is going to be kind of our focal text for the entire unit. So I'm going to read this to students, and then we will talk about 3 key ideas that summarize the story. Now, again, this came with HMH, so I'm pretty much going to follow this the way it is. But that is the end of the writing unit for that day. So I'm going to move into grammar for the second part of writing, because this will really only take about 10 minutes, if that. So then we're going to go into grammar, and we've been talking about subject and verb agreement. I just had students do a verb sort that I can show you, so they could just identify what a verb is. And then we talked about how the subject has to match the verb. They have to agree. And we said when the subject is plural, the verb usually does not have an S, but when the subject is singular, it does have an S, unless we're saying I. So we'll practice a couple: a puppy run after the ball, or a puppy runs, apple grow or grows, Margot take or takes, and so on. And then these slides I got off TPT. This is from a little unit I grabbed there, so I will share that down below. The boy catches, we talk about the subject and verb agreement, and then we're just going to practice some of these. What is the subject and what's the verb? Again, we'll do that for 3, and then we will do a little fill in to see which one makes sense. And then we'll do this quick little activity at the end of writing. So students are going to read the sentence that they'll get on their card, and they have to identify the subject and the verb and draw a quick little sketch to share about theirs. And then I might have them share it with a friend. I only put 5 minutes on here because I want this to be a pretty quick little activity. But yeah, this packet came with quite a few fun activities for subject and verb agreement that I can share down below. That's kind of all we're doing for writing this week. We're really going to focus on that subject and verb agreement. I did say I would share what the noun and verb sort looked like. It looks like this right here. This is in a little verb mini unit I have in the SJT Writing Club. And that was just our basic review of what verbs are and what a verb is not. So yeah, we're kind of working on the grammar part. I'll be interested to see where this writing unit ends up going as they eventually write their own narrative, but we just aren't there yet. So I will share that over the next couple weeks, because we should be finishing up this writing unit before we head to February break. So I can take you along there if you are interested in seeing what our narrative writing will look like. All right, I think that is all I have for you this week. I just wanted to pop in a couple times. I'm not here Friday, so tomorrow I'm going to try to keep it, again, as structured as possible, because it's quite the ziggle-zaggle day. We actually have some fun weeks coming up. Next week on Wednesday, we participate in Global Play Day, which is a whole fun day of play. And then next Friday is our 100th day of school, which is a half day. So I have a bunch of fun stuff coming up for that. I'll be sure to vlog and share what we are doing. And then the week after that will be Valentine's Day on the Friday, and then we have February vacation. So things are starting to fly. It's feeling a little weird. We got to slow it down. We still have a lot to learn and lots to go over. So I will be sure to take you along with me. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.